100.
We don't acknowledge the top 100 around here.
Top 100 ratings are rough.
It took me about 5 plays to get excited about the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs offense. I went to training camp on Sunday. Let's talk about it.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Story presented by Emprise Bank, our tremendous partners in Possible here at KC Sports Network. I'm Ken Swanson. I'm here with Matthew Lane. Matthew, how are we?
Listen, we're great. We are doing fantastic. Training camp's here, so football's starting. College football's right around the corner. This is all good stuff. But you know what the best news is?
What?
We are done with the future team previews for the 2024 season. We don't have to talk about a football game that's happening 3.5 months from now anymore. So I could not be happier about this, Kent.
If only there was a choice for us to.
There isn't. There's no choice.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't.
Have you listened to any of the comment section in the June show? They don't like it. We talk non-football. What else is there to do besides to talk about? Okay, you got to talk about football. It's demanded.
All right, so here's the cycle that happens every year. We just do this, right? So we get to the last week of May and we go, all right, so should we do the season preview again like we've done the last couple years? I don't know. Sure. We get about halfway through and we go, we got to come up with something different next year.
Food scale. Let's go.
See, that's honestly, I think this whole series keeping us from doing the food scale all summer, actually might be a blessing in disguise now that I think about it.
It didn't do that though. The food scale's for a different part of the offseason.
Yeah, I know.
Is for early offseason.
But that's a much shorter series. And
it's a great series. This future games preview thing,
we evaluate it every year and we're evaluating it again this year. We're at a point where we got to come up with something next year different.
Anything else. Although the food scale's here to stay. Some would say the food scale is, I don't know, the Patrick Mahomes of series we do on this show.
Nice attempt at a transition.
You just helped me out, but that's okay. You were not my Xavier Worthy.
I was not, because I didn't make that play. So, I got a chance to go on Sunday to training camp. Kind of a last second thing. One of my buddies was telling me he was going, and me and my son wound up going with them. And it took me about 5 plays to just get really excited about the prospects of this Chiefs offense. There's a few little things that I saw there, obviously, namely the play that everybody is talking about with Mahomes rolling to his left, uncorking a pass to Xavier Worthy 65 yards down the field, who refreshingly catches the ball, makes the play, and scores a touchdown. It was that. It was earlier in the day when Patrick Mahomes threw a corner route to Xavier Worthy, who went up and got the ball, but Patrick Mahomes is giving him every chance to kind of earn and develop that trust. Xavier Worthy adds a layer to this offense. There's several other pieces of this thing that are worth talking about, but I'm telling you, Maddie, it did not take me long to be all in on the 2024 Chiefs offense. I am so in. I could not be more in on this version of this offense.
Yeah, we'll talk about some more specifics, but just as an overarching theme, you were, DMing me during the everything while you were there, and everybody during the first day, no pads are on or anything like that. We have the next month to talk about what happens at training camp and where our thoughts and feelings go, but your just joy over what you were seeing on offense, how well you thought it looked and everything like that was very refreshing to see. And then all the highlights coming out of the first day of camp. Clearly, the offensive install and energy level was very, very high on day one because everything was extremely positive. Everything looked great. It was really crisp. Seems like on day 2, the defense got a couple of their licks back in. Seemed like they had a better day. And you never know how much of that is. let me take that back. It's never just one side of the ball is great and the other side of the ball is bad or doing worse or doing better. Both sides are installing different plays, working on different things each day. Some days are going to be slanted towards one beyond what the naked eye can tell, what any of us in the stands will ever be able to tell. It'll always be slanted one way or the other, and we'll never know. So when one side of the ball looks good or the other, it's not always a negative thing for one side or the other, right? They're working on specific stuff. That said, I saw a lot of deep passes. I saw the ball getting pushed downfield on day one. Even on day two, there were some opportunities to push the ball downfield they weren't quite connecting on. I like that a lot because we really haven't seen much of that for the past 2 seasons in Kansas City.
I think, it's easy to make the statement, the vertical passing game opens everything up, blah, 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 blah. This team was desperately trying to get a vertical element into their offense last year in 2023, which is why they traded for McCole Hardman to try to see if they could install that. Didn't really take off as they hoped, but MVS found his footing a little bit. And they were able to get a little bit of stuff rolling, but, and real quick, I'll come back to that in a second, but you're all right that it's easy. You don't want to take too much away from some of this stuff, right? I know I just got done saying what I got done saying, but there are definitely, calls that these teams want to see and they want to see them have success. And so sometimes these are scripted plays. Both sides of the ball are scripted. And so, sometimes you can try to put a team in a bad look and see how it goes, or sometimes you want to see a concept get tested against a certain coverage and so on and so forth. But anyways, the the vertical element of this offense with Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy on the field was undeniable. And getting to see the Chiefs not only take those shots and push the ball down the field, but both of those 2 new additions finding success, that was really exciting to see. I don't know if there's all that much. I mean, when you're looking at the, Xavier Worthy, there's not much more physicality that they're going to be able to play with him with pads on, like if they're playing press outside, they're playing press outside. They got to use good technique. It's not like he's getting hit out there and it's going to completely alter things all that much. It matters more from the box when you're talking about the pads coming on. So seeing, those guys go and make plays against the secondary, man, that vertical stretch, that vertical element, Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball, trying to give these guys confidence and trust, it's developing very quickly. And you could see that very, very early on, just how successful they were able to push the ball down the field.
Yeah, and so let's work through it. We'll start with the play, the long throw you mentioned earlier. Patrick Mahomes on the little fake jet sweep with the sprint out to the left while still on the move, just unlocks his hips, continues still drifting left. We unlock the hips, we flip them, we throw off our back foot while still fading away 65 yards. I don't ever want to say perfectly in stride on a deep ball because a lot of that comes down to a wide receiver tracking it and running to catch it in stride, which, hey, guess what? That's been a struggle in Kansas City since Tyreek Hill left. But Xavier Worthy does just that. He sells a little corner route. He gives a nice little nod to the outside to get around Brian Cook, and then it just becomes a foot race, which he's easily going to win. Tracks the ball and catches it. I said this before. I think when just seeing this play described by people on Twitter and even from you and Tucker who were there that saw it live, I was thinking more this is going to be about Worthy. And then I saw the play and Worthy's great on the play. This is one of, and I said this to you guys, this is one of the 5 freakiest things that I've seen Patrick Mahomes do since he got in the NFL was make this throw. I don't think that more than 2, maybe 3 quarterbacks that have ever played in the NFL could make the throw the way he did, as loose as he did, as quick as he did, deciding that I'm throwing this ball now, flipping his hips, throwing it the way he did, like Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. These guys are big, huge, maybe have stronger arms than Patrick Mahomes and can throw it farther when both feet are planted. Neither one of those guys are flipping their hips with that speed and getting that ball off that quickly. They don't have that kind of throw, like that kind of arm to them. So it is one of the most insane throws you'll ever see. Yeah, it wasn't in pads, so maybe that's the argument against it being, but it is one of the most insane things I've ever seen.
Now he was getting out there regardless if there was pads on or not. He was able to throw that. He was going to be able to get that ball off regardless. But it was, I think, what you kind of speak to. I think there's guys with the arm strength and arm talent, to do a little bit of that, but it's the amount of control and touch he had on that football that I think separates him from if Justin Herbert tried to just launch a rocket out there, and even trying to throw it with a little bit more arc. Even it doesn't really truly do justice to what Patrick Mahomes was doing with the level of control he had of the body and of the ball. That, yes, you're right. Ball tracking and body adjustment is crucial in the vertical passing game on the receiving end of it. But man, Mahomes put him in such a good spot. Like, he really just put him in such a great situation there. And it's a remarkable thing, and Mahomes normalizes that throw, which is why, it's so crazy. But I think it's just, and he's the afterthought, I think, for a lot of people because of the struggles that this team endured last year with the vertical passing game, catching the football. Xavier Worthy came in immediately and just helped kind of relieve some of those ailments that they had in 2023. And I think the thing that got me as excited about, unless you have more on the vertical passing game, I have something that kind of just go.
Well, I want to talk about the wide receivers. I just want to talk about the wide receivers in general. It's more overarching. But like the vertical passing game, obviously, I think Hollywood Brown is going to be involved in that. And there's, been some flashes of that throughout the offseason so far. But my just initial thoughts, and I'm only seeing clips that are making it to social media at this point. But my initial thought is it seems like Xavier Worthy is the deep threat guy right now. He is the guy that they envision being the majority of his routes are going to be vertical. A lot of his routes, he is the guy they are trying to work on the vertical plane. This kind of takes you to the next point. Hollywood Brown kind of seems like he is taking a more, if you think back to Jeremy Maclin with the Chiefs, that kind of role. He is going to be a zone beater. He is going to be the guy working short to intermediate and, yes, some deeper routes, but he's going to be doing a little bit more over the middle of the field. He's going to be doing a little bit more under 20 yards versus where Worthy might be looking a little bit more downfield. So like it seems like they are trying to use those two guys in slightly different ways despite having an overlapping skill set, which will make them interchangeable in the long run. It's just, I thought it was noticeable that Hollywood Brown seems to definitely be having, at least right now, early, on in camp through 2 days now, a different role than what Xavier Worthy has.
I think if you're talking about this offense hitting the ground running, that's the best path for it too, right? Is put Xavier Worthy doing some of the vertical stuff, which can be a little bit more simplistic in him as he's kind of getting acclimated to the NFL. But yeah, I think you're right. Hollywood Brown, one thing I noticed just in a small sample size, and yeah, we're talking about day one install, but they went into empty. They played they were Y ISO. They motioned into empty, and Hollywood Brown's the number 3 receiver on the 3 receiver side. So he's the third inside. He's the nearest to the tackle, and he's running, he's running routes over in the middle of the field. So, but then, he's lining up outside later. He's running he's getting a rail shot or a sideline throw. I don't know if it was a rail shot. I can't remember what coverage it was now that I think about it, but a sideline throw when he's outside the numbers. They're utilizing him, and they seem to be moving him around a lot in just this day one install that, we're talking about, right? It was cool to see that element of Hollywood Brown's game, but also just kind of, seeing the getting glimpses of what this thing could look like. And I think you're right. Xavier's going to be your vertical guy. Hollywood's still going to get vertical. And we'll get to Rasheed in a second. But, I think you're onto something there. I think that's the path that this thing eventually takes. But that doesn't include what you can do with the Rashee Rice too, right? Because and that's the thing that got me really excited. So one of the things that got me really excited. I said this on Twitter. Why? Well, yeah, I'll get you a set. I said this on Twitter the other day, but like I think because of the cloud looming over Rashee Rice's head with the issue earlier in the offseason, will he be suspended? How long will he be suspended? Is he going to be suspended this year? Blah 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 blah. All that. I think we kind of forgot, and maybe we just kind of in the back of our heads, hey, rail shot is a word, Micah. It's a football term. Anyway,
what else would it be, Kent?
I don't know. Anyways, I think we kind of maybe we treated, maybe Rashee Rice was an afterthought in people's heads, and how good he was last year when he was on the field maybe got overshadowed a little bit. And when I look at, I saw this one play, and it was Hollywood, it was Xavier and Rasheed to a 3 receiver side. I think it was out of a bunch, and they're pushing vertical with Hollywood and Xavier, and then Rashee Rice is wide open underneath. And it's just like these easy completions. And the thing that gets me excited is watching Rashee Rice be at full speed and run through defense is enjoyable to watch. So watching him being able to get a running start before he catches the football, watching him be able to build up and get some speed and then run through the defense at the middle of the field. That's where some of the Debo stuff kind of gets, the comparisons, watching him kind of run through the middle of the defense. He should be afforded opportunities to run after the catch, but be well positioned to run after the catch because of the vertical stretch that exists there. And that was just like, kind of, it got me a little bit excited because I'm watching in one practice all these elements that people are going to have to deal with. And then just seeing how much it really does affect Rashee Rice's ability to be Rashee Rice. Oh, and by the way, the best tight end to ever walk the face of the earth too. So it's just, there's so many little elements to this offense that just, we talked about it on paper all offseason. We theorized how it could really help and how this thing could manifest. But watching it executed was just, it was so exciting, man.
Yes.
It's so exciting.
I'm glad you had a strong take about Rashee Rice because it seemed like a little bit quieter first 2 days. And I think it's probably because everybody's looking for the new guys. They're trying to see what the new people are going to come in and be able to do. And so you don't see, notice Rashee Rice kind of doing a lot of the same stuff that he had already been doing before, doing a lot of, just kind of in his same role. And so now I think they're creating a bunch more space for him. And this is nothing negative about Rashee Rice, but it eliminates pressure off of him too now, right?
Yes.
Like there isn't a pressure for him to take you expect a step, but there's not a pressure for him to take a step up in terms of where he wins and where he doesn't. There's no pressure for him to now become a go-to guy versus man coverage and to win vertically and win to all three levels. Because that, quite frankly, he was really bad at that stuff last year. That's where he struggled. You look at anybody that kind of does any advanced tracking of anything, he was really bad versus man coverage, press coverage, winning vertically. Those he really struggled. So you don't want to force him to have to do those things. You want to allow him to keep doing what he did really well last year. And I think a healthy Xavier Worthy, who did miss the second day of training camp with an illness, hopefully that's all it is, right? And Hollywood Brown, those two guys open that up for Rashee Rice. And I think that very clearly right there, I think the top three wide receivers for this team. That's going to be the three. Who's number 4, Kent? Who was getting the most stuff for number 4?
See, I'm not ready to make a decision on that or any determination really on that because I don't think I saw anything that would really give me any clear indication of the pecking order. And I think the emphasis was so much on getting Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown involved early when it came to the camp I was there. I think it's probably Justin Watson, and Justin Watson was, he was sticking late after practice trying to fight, for some trying to get some work in, and it didn't feel like, I don't know if he felt his job was safe. I don't know exactly.
Lunch pail?
Yeah, he was lunch paling.
Was he the first one in and the last one out?
I don't know if he was the first one in, but he was big time lunch paling afterwards. I don't know. I think he's probably the 4th in the pecking order if I had to guess right now. But I'm trying to get those other 3 on the field as much as I can.
So right, no, and so Watson fills a role. He's by far the biggest, wide receiver they had, just like in terms of overall size. I know Justin Ross is also very tall, lanky, but Justin Watson, in terms of guys that have played, definitely the biggest wide receiver they have. You can even see that show up on the field. What's next? How are they filling out this roster? Like, what do we just think? It's early training camp. What are the vibes? We got Kadarius Toney's out here getting reps with running backs and wide receivers. And it didn't sound like it was a significant amount with the running backs, just ran a few drills with the running backs, but then also the wide receivers. But he's working anywhere from first team and special packages to third team on the offense. Sky Moore getting some run, it seems like, with the first team, but also a lot of backup reps. And it's not like he was overly impressive at any of the stuff that I saw or heard coming out of training camp. Nico Armigio getting a lot of work as a punt returner. Didn't hear anything about him working with, Patrick Mahomes in the first team offense. Justin Ross, both first team, second team, third. Like, how do we see the rest of this wide receiver room rounding out? I know you said you're still waiting, but what did you see while you were there?
Not much. And I don't think they know. I don't think they have a good pulse on what the rest of that group really looks like. I don't think anybody really stood out as far as making plays. I don't really think there was any marquee moment for anyone outside the top 3 receivers, including Justin Watson. I'm not basing it off of what we saw today or yesterday with Justin Watson. It's more based off of track record. I don't think things are settled. McColl might wind up being wide receiver 4
I
when
didn't
it's all
even mention
said and done.
McCall, and that's a good one. No, that slipped my mind. Yeah, no, he definitely belongs in there too because he seems like the guy that when Worthy wasn't able to practice on day 2, he seemed to be the guy that was in that position of Xavier Worthy was in day 1, right? And so he's in the mix. And you can't get out of this. Which wide receivers make this team and which don't? Now you have to predict right now.
All right, so Worthy, Brown, Rice, Watson, Hardman.
4, 5.
I'm not ready to put my name on anybody else.
Nah, you have to.
Kadarius, fine. Remigio goes Remigio goes to the practice squad. I mean, I think they're trying to diversify Kadarius and use him all over the place because they want to try to keep him on the roster. I think Sky Moore is gone.
So you're effectively ending the Sky Moore and probably Justin Ross experiment this year.
Yes, maybe Justin Ross gets on a practice squad. I don't know if he's justified getting picked up on a 53-man roster either. So
yeah. I get what you're going with. I'm cool with that. I can see that avenue with Tony. They're trying to figure out, how all they can use him because they want to keep that talent around. I also look at it as, or are they trying to figure out how they use him so they have a reason to keep him on a 53-man roster because they don't have one currently. I think that comes down to it's a punt return game, right? Like who's returning the punts for this team right now? We just talked about Sky Moore's getting some reps doing it, but I don't expect him to hit the job, but maybe he ends up being the best. Kadarius Toney, when healthy, has been a, inconsistent, but a dangerous punt returner. Nico Remigio was really good at returning in college. That could be your 6 wide receiver spot, or does it just end up being McCole Hardman again? Or Xavier, like, you know what I mean? They have so many options. Like as of right now, I'm going to go ahead and say wide receiver 6 is down to whoever wins the punt return job. And like, if I had to put my name on one right now, out of principle, I'm going with Remigio. Getting that revolution going because like I just don't understand the Toney thing. I just don't get it. He's done nothing to be on an NFL squad.
I get it, but contextually, why are they playing around with him at running back and receiver? Why are they trying to diversify the portfolio? Why? Because
they don't have any running backs, and they know he can't wide receiver.
I mean, I'll hear it. I'll hear it. Yeah, I don't know how great they feel about it, which is why McCole Hardman's here. And honestly, early returns, I get why McCole Hardman's here. He's better than Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney from a NFL roster perspective right now. And hey, like I get it. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I like what they have at the top though a lot. I'd rather be complaining, speculating about wide receivers 5, 6 than what we were talking about last year because the wide receiver 5, 6 on this team might have been dudes that we thought might be 1 and 2 last year.
We were spinning a thing that like, yeah, the wide receiver group isn't great at the top, but they're so good 8 deep that it's going to like, that's all that matters. It's such a strong group and 4 through 8 that it doesn't matter that the top 3 guys aren't that good. Well, turns out.
What's the old saying? If you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. I don't know. Anyways, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk more about Chiefs training camp right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone in any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts with you. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSN Lab. That's mintmobile.com/KCSN Lab. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSN Lab. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Tell you what, I'm liking the sultry voices of Tucker D. Franklin on that Mint Mobile ad. I'm telling you right now. Hey, I don't know if anybody saw this on social media today or on the KCSN Discord, but the signups for the KCSN golf tournament are available and out, and it is going to be an epic time. I think it's the best tournament that we've put on yet, as far as just some of the stuff that we have. KCSN did a barrel pick, a holiday bourbon, and I double checked with BJ. I can say this: I believe everyone's getting a bottle of that bourbon for signing up, and it is a very good barrel pick. It's a 7-year. KCSN has tremendous tastes. I will not tell you who picked the top 2 of the barrels accurately, but
that's definitely not how that works.
That's absolutely. I had the top 2. I had the 2 finalists.
It's because you were voting. The finals, there was no
but
right
the whole group was voting. The whole group was voting.
Our opinions.
The whole group voted. Mine reigned supreme. I was able to identify the oldest bourbon. I don't
believe so.
Yes, I was.
You missed the highest proof one.
That's not true. I got that right as well. I got both of those things. Right.
There's video evidence of this. We're watching that.
You're right. Yeah, we can go back to we can roll the tape on that. That was also very fun. Anyways,
I picked the first one.
What'd you say, Tuck?
I picked it right out the gate. The first one I said that's the one. So
Tucker also threatened to quit if we chose the second best one as the best
true.
one. So,
and I'm still working here. So.
But anyways, it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be the first week of the season. So the Saturday after the Chiefs, drop another banner on the NFL, we will be out at Sunflower Hills Golf Course. So I don't know if there's a link in the description. If there's not, no biggie, but make sure you're checking that out, because that thing will fill up fast, and it is going to be a lot of fun. Mission Tacos got tacos out there. Holidays got, there's always some holiday tents and stuff out there as well. So it's gonna be a good time. Okay, we can move on a little bit, but just consider signing up for that. So I think some of the biggest news from the injury front, there's a few. Justin Reed was placed on the NFI non-football injury list to start the season. Jaden Hicks is getting some run in there as well. Jason Anderson, friend of KCSN, saying that it's not a short-term thing. It's not like it's, he's going to be out there this week. It could bleed into the season, this injury. So thoughts, Matthew?
Well, I don't know if it's everywhere too. Jason Anderson also said that he was told it was a quad injury. So something with Justin Reed's quad is what is holding him out. And then, and even if I think in Steve Spagnuolo's quotes, Steve Spagnuolo himself, when he got up and talked, he made it sound like it's not going to be something short, or they know for sure where the end line is for this Justin Reed injury. And so that's kind of a big deal, right? Like, that's kind of a big thing. That kind of matters, that Justin Reed might not be available. Not for the start of the season, we obviously missing games with the communicator, kind of the leader of the secondary of this defense is a big deal. But even going through training camp, as they are adding new guys, they're trying to get everybody on the same page for whatever Steve Spagnuolo is installing and adding in there, not having him just actively out there going through the reps with everybody. That is a big deal for this team. That's probably one of the guys that, outside of Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones, he's not far down the list of guys that's not going to be easy to replace on game day if it does come to missing games. Like, this is definitely a major injury, I think, to keep watching.
You said training cramp, which was very fitting with all of this. It's definitely something to pay attention to, because this was a guy that I think was really starting to come into his own at the end of last year. A lot more comfort, how they were using, and they're using him a lot of different ways towards the end of the season. This is a chess piece that Steve Spagnuolo has employed and weaponized. And, Steve Spagnuolo is kind of, commenting on we can use this as a positive, because he's getting to focus a lot and study a lot and get to see things a lot and understand the whole complexity of the defense, not just the things that he does, and without saying, he wasn't saying that, Justin Reed's not capable of that anyway. He already is a lot like that. But, this is a versatile chess piece that Chiefs have used, and they started to use really, really well in a lot of different ways. And so missing out on him for any amount of time could really be really big. The good news, if there's good news, is in the 4th round a few months ago, the Chiefs decided to admittedly make a luxury pick where they basically said the talent this was a best player available on the board. He was too good. We had to take him. And that's safety Jaden Hicks out of Washington State. And so I'm there on Sunday, and he's in team takeoff with the ones. Now, it makes a lot more sense, obviously, now just the helmet, after the Chiefs hid Justin Reed's helmet, according to Tucker Franklin. You say, hope they find it by September. But, not to say that they have the depth, to replace or withstand the loss of Justin Reed, because Justin Reed's their best safety. But they have a really good player in Jaden Hicks that can do some things similarly, where the Chiefs are being rewarded for just sticking to their board and taking the best player available if Jaden Hicks can contribute quickly, because this is a role that he could step in and perform admirably. I'm not saying he's going to be Justin Reed day one, but they are rewarded for having Jaden Hicks on this roster.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big deal. It sounded like early on, immediately, I think we even talked about this. Jaden Hicks came in when they was just the rookies there, and he was talking about when he took the podium last week, like, hey, I'm getting work everywhere. I'm learning all these different positions. And some of that might have come in because they knew that they were going to be without Justin Reed for a while. Like, I would assume if he was already injured, he would have already had to be, like, I don't know when he reported. I don't know the rules for that, but usually injured guys come in when the rookies and QBs do. I don't remember Justin Reed being there then. So maybe they didn't find out. I don't know the timeline here, but he was starting to get work across all the different positions, that he would play as a safety. So that's a big part. But what causes me a little bit of concern, like, I like the Hicks idea. And I think that is, if they have to use him to slide him in to be their primary box safety, which is what Justin Reed has been, that's a good, like, skill set match. He's big, physical, can come downhill and make plays. He's a very smart football player. It very much does fit what he does. And it's a way to ease him in there without having to throw him in there and be like, hey, go do everything. Because they do have another safety that they can start next to Brian Cook and Shamari Connor, who's coming off of a very good rookie season. Now you're going into the next year. He was expected to replace Mike Edwards as their third safety. Obviously, slightly different skill sets, but like, you at least have two guys that can start if Justin Reed can't play, and Cook and Connor. You can work Hicks in as this third safety, and he just kind of takes Reed's role in the box. I will say, though, the one, like, tricky part it gets, the Chiefs secondary undoubtedly got worse losing L'Jarius Sneed from last year. Like, it is going to take a little bit of a step back between losing Edwards and L'Jarius Sneed. The kind of chess piece they had, in my opinion, was Shamari Connor, his ability to play as a safety or in the box or in the slot. But if Justin Reed's hurt, I don't know how versatile you can make Connor, how much you can move him around with only a rookie or a Deion Bush or whatever it is going to be behind him. I don't know how versatile you can get with Shamari Connor, who I think the goal was to kind of use him all over the place in all these different spots. Now you might have to hone him into a more specific, like, singular position, which he'll be fine with. I just think you are losing, if you are losing Reed, you are losing that element as well, which could have kind of bigger effects.
Yeah. I think one thing I was going to add before we move on here, Trey Dean was released today by the Chiefs, and I'm not saying that that's, something to, completely alter, the outlook of the safety room or all that stuff. And they brought Tyree Gillespie back. So they brought another safety back and someone that's familiar with this defense and whatnot. But I at least kind of took it a little bit as like a slight vote of confidence in what they've seen out of Jaden Hicks to this point. And I think they're trying to throw him into the fire, because they're letting him drink from the fire hose. You're seeing him get a lot of reps with the ones right now. I think they're really trying to be intentional about getting him up to speed and ready to roll, because they're going to need him, pretty, sooner maybe than they anticipated. But I thought it was at least interesting that they released a safety that they've had on their roster for the entirety of the offseason. Yes, bringing in another safety, but, just the fact that they're not, it seemed more just a hint of a vote of confidence that Jaden Hicks can be a contributor on this defense. If they are going to miss some time with Justin Reed.
Maybe I recall from Trey Dean is going through the process of the draft. I don't know if I would have penciled him in as a Steve Spagnuolo type of safety. So there could be some stuff there to where, like, I think it just made more sense to have somebody like Gillespie to be in there, who I think, if we want to relate it specifically to this, he's also a guy that I feel pretty confident playing the run and coming downhill and making tackles a little bit more than I think Trey Dean is. And so, like, if you were looking for one-to-one replacements for what they could, again, there's no guarantee that Justin Reed's missing time, but what they could miss, then I do think like somebody like Gillespie makes a little bit more sense and probably fits Steve Spagnuolo's preferred player type a little better.
Do we think? I mean, I'm not even sure Tyree Gillespie's making the roster either, though.
No, I don't. Yeah, it's not a guarantee. I'm just talking about, like, if we were comparing Trey Dean to him, one guy I think plays with a little bit more using his head, a little bit less reactionary, and then is also a lot more willing to tackle and come downhill than the other guy. And the other guy is just a freak athlete. We know which direction that Steve Spagnuolo trends if those are his two options.
We might be pulling an Only Weird Games and not getting to all of the subjects that we plan on talking to today. Honestly, if
we don't get to everything,
it's kind of nice.
We need to start talking about some movies here for like next 22 minutes. We should just talk about a movie.
I'm not. No, I don't want to do that. We have so much Chiefs stuff to talk about. You can tell how excited we are because, we've spent 40 minutes basically talking about the new wrinkles to the offense and the safety room.
1.5 days of training camp practice.
I know. Hey, this is we are so back, baby. I can't wait. But let's talk a little bit about the left tackle spot here, because it looks like, Wanye Morris and Kingsley Suamataia are splitting reps right now in the competition for the left tackle position. They are the two primary candidates. I believe the only two players that, to this point in the very small sample size of training camp, have earned opportunities to play left tackle with the first team. It has been a pretty even split to this point. And I'm fascinated to see if you have any early thoughts on the Wanye Suamataia competition, because I have a couple.
I don't think I have any thoughts yet. No pads are on. I struggle on this type of thing to go. I don't want to say either way. Like, I don't have there's nothing to be optimistic about or there's nothing to be pessimistic about. It's just right down the middle. There's two guys that they're very clearly in a competition for a single job, and neither guy is, as of right now, is being seen as a clear-cut leader. I guess you would have to give a slight nod to Morris because he is trotting out there first. Doesn't mean he's going to end up there. Doesn't mean when pads come on, he's still there. And it's not like he's got a commanding lead. He's coming out after a couple plays, and then Kingsley's going in, and then he's going out after a couple plays, and Wanye Morris is going back. It's like they're going back and forth. It seems like a pretty 50-50-ish situation here. Maybe the rookie gets a few more reps, but it's not like he is taking snaps away from Morris. They're just giving both guys stuff. They're even rotating the right tackle a little bit until the pads come on too. I know Chu Goddard came in for a series or two for Jawan Taylor today at training camp. So, I don't have any thoughts other than neither guy has earned the job yet, I guess is the only way I can put it.
For sure. And like you said, the pads haven't come on. But here's the thing that intrigues me about this left tackle spot in the left tackle situation. We've seen the team do some weird things when it comes to who trots out for day one. We've seen Jared Christian be the starting left tackle while Orlando Brown's missing time. Not anticipating that to be what they wind up doing, but it's we're going to just throw Jared Christian out there. When Wanye Morris began his time in training camp last year, and I believe he was a little bit behind, so I understand that, but he stuck on the third team for a long time last year as a rookie on the third team. Now, take that for what you will, developmental timeline, blah, 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 blah. We've also, on the flip side of this, we have seen players like Creed Humphrey essentially hit the ground running at center, basically day one, walking in, being the center with the first team. We have seen Trey Smith get worked in very quickly at the right guard position as a rookie. The fact that Kingsley Suamataia is already getting essentially a time split at the left tackle spot with the reps. Yes, I know they haven't put pads on, blah, blah. I understand. The fact that he's getting opportunity with that first team now kind of tells me where I think the Chiefs want this to go and kind of where I think this winds up going. I do think the Chiefs want this to be Kingsley Suamataia starting at left tackle. I think they are working intentionally to try to facilitate that happening. I do think Kingsley Suamataia has a leg up in this scenario because the rookie is getting more snaps or getting into the snaps of the veteran already at the left tackle spot. And
My pushback, I want to play devil's advocate to that.
Fine.
Calling Wanya Morris the veteran here is a heavy word for a guy that was switching positions last year, only played because of an injury. Like, I think going into this camp, Morris, not as much as Kingsley, but like he needs the reps pretty significantly. Like he needs as many reps as he can get as well. So I think both guys splitting it is not necessarily one guy's closer to winning it or closer to losing it. Is more of like, we need both these guys because we got to see what we have. I think it's more of we just completely don't know right now. Now I'm with you. I think that it's we don't want this to be Morris is more of how I see it, rather than like we want this to be somebody else. I don't think that they feel overtly comfortable with Wanya Morris going into the year as the starting left tackle. I think they would like it to be somebody better than what they saw of his play as of last year. Now, maybe he has improved this year, and by the time the season starts, they will feel comfortable with it. But based on what they have seen from last year, the way Andy talked about it, just the back channel hype, lack of hype that we have heard about Wanya Morris going into the season, the fact that they immediately come back and draft a offensive tackle in round 2 right after, having him around, I think they want anybody to beat out whatever they think of Wanya Morris, and that just so happens that Kingsley Suamataia is the guy that should be doing so. So I'm with you. They want him to get the job. I just don't know if there's any indication yet of that, because I think they're just splitting reps because they don't have an answer.
But like to your point, if they really wanted to, if they thought Wanya needed reps, and I agree that he needed reps, why are they messing with this rotation so?
Because they don't want it to be him either.
Yeah.
I don't think they want it to be him. I don't think they want it to be him. I'm equating this more to the Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith thing, where those guys were just so good, you had to give them the reps because it was obvious. I don't think, and maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe pads will come on and it'll become clear as day that Kingsley is the better player, right? That's a possibility. I just am getting the vibe that it's Kingsley's playing so good that he's taking Wanya Morris's reps. It's more that this was planned to be 50-50 because we don't have the answer yet. I think is more of my read on the situation.
The other thing in the back of my head with this entire situation too is Donovan Smith still doesn't have a place to go in 2024. And so, the other side of it could be, well, one, if Donovan Smith doesn't sign, they feel good about who they have at the left tackle spot, right? Like whatever happens, however this shakes out, the longer Donovan Smith isn't a Chief is of interest to me. But also I don't know. I tend to think it's going to be Kingsley. I still tend to I'm starting to lean and feel Kingsley, even though there's still so much to go. It just kind of feels like they're going to be very intentional on that happening. I think Wanya Morris could wind up being a pretty good guard too. Like either of these guys could wind up being a pretty good guard, if we're being honest. Like I think both of these guys could fit in there nicely.
This is one I think we definitely have to check in on a lot more as camp goes on. Like obviously, wide receivers, the safety, all these other stuff we talk about, you got to check, you got to keep an eye on as things go on. But I think the left tackle could change a lot once pads come on, because you mentioned it. Before pads come on, the first couple days, they throw a lot of weird stuff. Like Chu Godrick's not competing for a starting right tackle job, but he took a couple series with the first team away from Jawan Taylor, right? It's like they're just putting different guys in there right now. Pads will come on. They'll start getting into more stuff that they are really working on, and you will see a better idea of what they want to see or what they think is going to be the first team, who they think is going to be the starters. And we'll have to come back and visit it then. If nobody's added, I do think I'm with you that I think Kingsley ends up being the starting left tackle. If Kingsley doesn't win the job between him and Wanya Morris, that's where I think that Donovan Smith becomes a much more likely option. Because again, I really don't think this is a gut opinion that I just don't think there's good things that the vibes aren't good. The vibes aren't there for Wanya Morris. And maybe I'm wrong. I will happily eat these words. I just don't think the vibes are there.
He said, never Wanya is what he said.
This is the vibe.
I get it. No, I kind of get it a little bit too. And
Andy Reid, of all people, gets up there and says, now you know how to be a professional. Like that could be a wake-up call, and that could change everything. But also, that's not what you really want to have your head coach, especially one of Andy Reid, saying about a young tackle who needs to improve. Like that's just not how he usually does it.
And that's why you put the pressure on Kingsley to try to get the job done. You have him competition. You don't just hand anything over to him. You put a little pressure on him with Wanya. Pressure
Big
breaks
shout out
diamond.
Mike Caliendo filling in at left guard. Let's go.
Yeah, and it kind of stinks that neither Wanye or Kingsley are getting a chance to work next to Joe Tooney right now, because that would be
Yeah.
something I think that would be refreshing for both of them as they're kind of trying to learn through and go through this process. Having that guy, no knock on Mike Caliendo, it's just Joe Tooney is an incredibly
Hate him.
smart interior offensive lineman and one of the better ones in the National Football League. So it would have been nice to see them kind of get an opportunity there to to get to work alongside those guys. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of that's the vibe I'm getting. That's kind of what I see. That's kind of what I think is going to wind up happening. Is I think Kingsley winds up getting the job, and I think that's in the best interest of everyone, because that's the second round pick of this team this year, and they were trying to trade up for him reportedly as early as pick number 50. So that's a guy that they're very hot to trot about. We were going to try to get through all this stuff. I don't know if we're going to really get through anything else. Do you want to try to run through cornerback 2 real quick?
Yeah, no, we should
And then-
do the cornerback talk, and then we can save any other defensive stuff, because I have more defense stuff besides just the cornerback spots. Yeah, let's talk about some corners.
Let's do the cornerback 2 conversation real quick before we get out of here.
Real quick.
As of right now,
60.
Steve Spagnuolo kind of talking a little bit about Joshua Williams, Najee Johnson, Jalen Watson whenever he gets back, really pushing as players that have an opportunity to be cornerback 2 for this team. Trent McDuffie very clearly, obviously, cemented as the cornerback 1 for this team. But there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding, where this cornerback rotation ultimately falls. I believe Najee Johnson got a little bit of run today there at the cornerback, and Echo Boydo, I believe, got a little bit of run in with the first team. Matthew, where do you think the cornerback 2 competition winds up going between Jalen Watson, Najee Johnson, Joshua Williams? Do you think that cornerback 2 exists within those 3? First off,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Steve Spagnuolo kind of said it pretty bluntly. It's pretty open, and then you've got to fight for that. You've got Josh Williams, you've got Jalen Watson, and you've got NJ, which is Najee Johnson, right? He laid out the 3 guys that they are seeing, I think, squarely in that competition for that cornerback 2 spot. It's the same 3 guys that have been competing for the same spot for 3 seasons now, and Jalen Watson, I guess, of the bunch has been the winner because he's played the most snaps at cornerback among them over the time when healthy. Like when everyone's healthy, Jalen Watson has played the most, but he has split time with Joshua Williams. Him and Joshua Williams have rotated series, with Watson usually coming out with slightly more of the reps. And then last year, it's a complete unknown for Najee Johnson. Rumors swirling that he was kind of getting maybe a leg up on that job before going down with an injury. So 3 guys relatively even. Right now, Jalen Watson, the guy that's probably the best to go out there in any situation today, is actually hurt. So he could be losing ground to a Joshua Williams, who seemed to have a pretty good day at training camp today, breaking up a couple passes, or to Najee Johnson, who I think has made some nice plays, but also if you kind of read between the lines what Steve Spagnuolo is saying, he's still knocking off some rust, returning from an injury, right? So I think it's very much up in the air. It seems like Josh Williams right now, while Najee Johnson's working back to 100% and Jalen Watson's not available, it seems like this is Joshua Williams' chance to really take this job and run away with it and separate himself. He is the only person stopping Joshua Williams from winning this job is Joshua Williams himself. He shouldn't have competition right now because, no offense to Najee Johnson, but he's returning from a significant injury. It should take him a little bit to get back into football readiness, because that's what happens after an injury. And Jalen Watson's not there. Joshua Williams, if he takes the strides that you expect in year 3, there should be nothing stopping him from being the Chiefs cornerback 2.
Yeah, and I think Jalen Watson has, like you said, kind of effectively, earned a little bit slight nod over the Joshua Williams over the first 2 years. But man, I think
just more consistent.
This is a great opportunity for Joshua Williams. Like the injuries and knocking off the rust for Najee and Jalen Watson working to the side is fantastic for Joshua Williams' developmental arc. He's got some comfortability. I think he's, year 3 in this defense, he's, got some level of comfortability there. And now just getting to see the reps and getting the opportunity to work with the first team unit, I think is probably more important for him than Jalen Watson at this point. Not to say that, Jalen Watson doesn't need it either. But yeah, I think this is a good opportunity in the developmental arc of Joshua Williams. And if he really maximizes it, yeah, this does give him a significant leg up in being able to earn a lot more snaps in this defense, playing, as the number 2 corner. And like the talent is undeniable. There's a lot of talent there. He's more talented than Jalen Watson, although I love Jalen Watson and he's a tremendous 7th round pick. There's a lot of talent in Joshua Williams' body. So if he can piece some things together here and make those incremental improvements across the board, like that consistency can go a long way in him kind of just unlocking some things there. So I think it's huge for him that he's getting this chance to kind of get this kind of run. And, Jalen Watson coming back and Najee Johnson coming back. Hopefully they can continue to push him too, because the Chiefs are going to need both of those guys at some point too.
Listen, I'm gonna put it out there. Kelvin Joseph might be a little bit of a sleeper to get in on this mix. If he missed the second practice of the personal day, but it sounded like in day one he was working as a second team corner across from like him and Najee Johnson, were your second team corners. Sounded like he looked pretty good. I'm not gonna say like he looked excellent or anything like that, but it sounded like he looked just fine out there. He made some plays. It sounded like coming out of camp, and so here's a guy that was drafted in the top 50 a few years ago, has definitely had some legal troubles and some good and bad play on a football field, but here's a guy that has talent. He, again, top 50 draft pick not that long ago. He very easily, despite, like I said, very up and down play and some legal trouble, got opportunities with more football teams than the ones that cut him right away because the physical talent is there. If they get him to rein it in, if this really was like a scheduled personal day or something that's completely excused and not in any form an issue, and he comes back, he is now, because of Watson being injured, because Najee Johnson's working back from injury, and because Joshua Williams up to this point of his career has been relatively uneven in his play, it's been very inconsistent, there is a window for this guy to come out there and just kind of be like, hey, maybe I have a shot at this. And I don't think you can rule it out when there is a guy that is that different of an athlete, or that different of just like a football player, not necessarily corner, just like that different of a kind of recruit or player.
I mean, yeah, Kelvin Joseph fits the kind of archetype that the Chiefs prefer at the cornerback position. He's on his fourth different team. Got traded from Dallas to Miami for Noah Igbenogany, which is kind of a couple guys, top 50 guys, both kind of underperforming. Spent some time in Seattle, but yeah, he really never found his footing. But he's in a great defense to help maximize his strengths and his talents. And if he can tap into that talent, and like, this is still a young kid, he's a 24-year-old kid. If he can find a way to tap into that talent that made him such an intriguing player coming out of college, like, hey, I get it. Like, this is a guy that could be part of that cornerback rotation. So yeah, I'm curious to see if he's able to take a step. He was out today for personal reasons, so it doesn't sound like there was anything injury related. And by the way, Xavier Worthy, missed some time, but it wasn't about the hamstring. He was just reportedly sick, probably saw highlights of that throw and just, thought it was just so sick. So that's probably caught it that way. I
was just joking. It was a bad joke.
I will say this. I do think
Tucker
at
tried
some
to
point
wrap
in time,
the show for those audio only listeners. Tucker tried to wrap the show.
I think at some point in time, Najee Johnson gets a crack as a starting corner, whether that is Watson still injured, Joshua Williams in the doghouse, whether something goes poorly, like whatever it is. I think Najee Johnson starts at least one game as a cornerback, as an outside corner this year. I don't even know if it's going to be because of injury. I feel like there was enough hype around him. His name continues to come out of Steve Spagnuolo's like mouth, and he's definitely still in this picture, despite, if you look at what he's done in the NFL, there's nothing that says he has, right? As a rookie, he barely played. Last year he gets hurt. There's nothing on the field that says that he should be in this conversation, but coaches continuously put him there. That's something worth, I think, noting. Now, again, there's rust being knocked off if you read between the lines. So I don't know, but like at some point in time, I think he gets a little bit of a run there. I just wanted to say that I do think that Joseph's a sleeper. Watson gives you a safety net. Joshua Williams, I don't know what to do with. Plenty of experience. It's just such up and down play. There's sometimes he looks great. Sometimes he looks like he's still struggling a little bit with some of the play calls. And so it's hard to get a read on what that corner 2 spot is going to do.
Yeah, and we got all camp to figure it out. Can't wait to see what shakes out of all of this. But I said it a couple weeks ago. I do still think it's interesting that they haven't brought in a veteran cornerback, so they must see something in all these guys that makes them believe that they have some depth there at the cornerback spot, or at least wanting to give these guys a fair shake, which I think, again, still tells you something there too.
You mentioned it. Echo Boydo got some run too. They like him. They like their depth. They like the corner depth they have. So they feel comfortable, I think, doing that. We're not going to talk long about it. Ken's trying to get us out of here. I could tell I interrupted him. I did say this though. I did see this. Was there any word on FAU, or is it too early to ask before pads come on? It's currently too early to ask, but boy, when your defensive coordinator comes out and says they want to see some physicality and growth in your pass rush plan, and your calling card is going to be your pass rush plan, that's, I don't want to say a bad sign, but there might be some work to do sign. There might be some work that needs to be seen. There might need some developmental steps that we need to see. We'll get a lot better idea once pads come on. I don't think that a lot has come out of him from non-padded practice. It's not really hard, but Steve Spagnuolo kind of put the challenge out there publicly for him. So I think he needs to really take it this year, or you could get into NFL comes at you fast. You might find yourself just buried as a rotational player real quick if you don't bring the quote unquote physicality and show progress in your pass rush plan by year 2.
None of the quotes are giving me the warm fuzzies. And rarely is a player that isn't getting the you're not getting the warm fuzzies about the quotes. How often do those guys pan out? Or whatever. I'm not saying that that's not the case. That's the case here. That's just, I don't know. Just haven't really loved the quotes coming out, and I just hope that that's not just like the other guys that we've heard some of the way it's presented, right? So it's a big offseason for him. It's a big opportunity for him. The Chiefs really need him to step up this year, because I don't think if it doesn't come out this year, then I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about it.
Saying we need him to show impact, looking for physicality and growth in his pass rush ability. Not, again, like you said, not warm and fuzzy. This is close to getting up there with how I feel about Andy Reid talking about Wanya Morris at the end of last year, just kind of being he kind of gets what he needs to do as a professional now, right? It's not necessarily saying something negative. It's just definitely not something that inspires confidence as of right now. And to be saying that while you're already at training camp, while he's been there working for a couple days and you've seen him through mini camp and stuff like that, pads come on. Hopefully you see impact, physicality, growth as a pass rusher from working with Tom Bahali and George Karlaftis, over the offseason. It just wasn't the greatest of quotes to be the first thing that I think we have gotten from him essentially since the year ended. This is the first Felix news you've heard since last season ended. Not the best way to start year 2, having your defensive coordinator ask you to do anything, poking you with a stick and say, come on, do something. The meme, that's kind of what this quote was.
Yeah, that's the fear, right? You got to read between the lines and what they're not saying sometimes. And I'm not using this to say that it's an indictment already on him or anything like that. But there's just, I wish I was getting more warm and fuzzies about that situation there. But I've had the warm and fuzzies for the last 57 minutes of talking to Matt Lane. It's been absolutely wonderful. That's going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
No more future team previews.